Yo, DJ, how's it going? Just started recording. We're live.
Today has been an incredible day. So, to start off with, I got a call this morning from my accountant's office that I'm refinancing my mortgage and they had to do the employment verification because they wouldn't let my boss, who's my mom, do it
Yeah.
since it was a family member. So, that's going through, and that's the last step before like this very long process of refinancing is going to be done. Super excited. A huge breakthrough. I'm trying to write a report, use our work software to make a report of all the items I have to order every week because I'm going to start ordering for us. Finally figured it out. I've been working on that for a little bit. Photoshop figured it out. Made a big breakthrough there because I do all of our images for the website and I have to like
Photoshop?
trim around the edges.
Yeah. What do you use to
Eh,
learn it? Just YouTube videos?
Just YouTube videos all
Dude,
the way.
Photoshop is tough,
Um,
man. Use Photoscape is a real. So Photoscape X, if you download
okay.
that,
Photoscape X.
super easy. That's how I make all my graphics for all the different podcast episodes and stuff. It's just super easy
hmm
to
I've
use.
been I've been looking at your softwares because I started using the Todoist as well, right? That was I
Todoist,
think I got that from
yes.
you.
I'm
It's been
writing,
really helpful.
I'm writing down everything that I'm using. I actually want to put out more content that's like tutorials for that. So like, hit up the Iconic Hoops letter, guys. Quick shameless plug if you're listening. I am putting a lot of these like tutorials on different softwares that I'm using to like be able to make as much content as I do. So
hmm
and then I apply it to basketball, obviously. So yeah, if you're interested in that, like make sure to sign up for that. But yeah, quick plug. Sorry, I cut you off.
No worries. I got a text from my Ultimate Frisbee captains. I coach an Ultimate Frisbee team that we're up to like 20 people for this next season, up
Mhm.
from 16. So that's sweet. I mean, if we keep getting more on this pace, we might be able to do two teams for the season, and that
Mm.
would be really cool. And then outside of that, D'Angelo Russell's a Minnesota Timberwolf. Let's get it! Woo!
Okay,
I
so
am very excited to get D'Lo on the Wolves.
I like that reaction because I was literally just so we took 15 minutes to start because we had to eat real quick and I haven't eaten all day because I've just been like I had a 2.5 hour one other thing I wanted to mention 2.5 hour Turkish show live stream which was kind of crazy. So shouts out, I know a couple people from there come here and listen to this one too, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out. It was wild, like 50 people for 2.5 hours. I like the first time that's like happened to me, so like that was pretty dope. But D'Angelo Russell, you are crazy excited about it, and that's what I was trying to say. I was just listening to Zach Lowe, just the start
hmm
of the Bobby Marks podcast, while I was eating, and he and Bobby Marks were talking about how the defense is going to be awful.
Terrible. So bad.
The defense is going to be awful, and obviously that's like the one thing that we always talked about like a D'Lo to the Wolves thing. There was no addition of playmaking besides D'Lo, and you got rid of Shabazz Napier too. So
hmm
or Napier. So I'm just curious, like, is there any downside to your excitedness right now or
I mean,
excitement?
not that much, right? So Wiggins, when he's good, he is good. When he is good, is not very often. And so we move him, who his contract was not ideal for
Mm-hmm.
D'Angelo, who I think will provide some pretty nice offense for us. I mean, they're basically making the same amount of money for the same amount of time. And then I was listening to that pod a little bit as well because Zach was like, "Oh, this 2021 Minnesota first might be like one of the best firsts, out there." Perhaps 2021 draft, don't know much about it. Probably stronger than 2020. That's the feeling. However, now we've got D'Angelo, we've got Carl Anthony Towns, the young guys who, if they can start improving, might be able to start lifting us up. And then we've got 34 million in expirings. I don't know if that's going to translate to pure cap space. Which, if we can be smart about our additions in the offseason, there's no reason to think that we can't be better than we were this year. Because I mean, we've been trash so far, like so bad. I mean, two separate losing streaks of like 12 games or 11 games, whatever it was before, and now we're on like a 12-13 or whatever it is losing streak. The biggest thing, we're fun again. D'Angelo Russell is fun. Carl Anthony Towns is fun. The Andrew Wiggins experience, let me tell you, the last few years has not been that fun. And so I am just pumped to get him in the building. Omari Spellman, I don't know if he's going to factor much. Jacob Evans really hasn't been much of a factor. We'll have to see, but we've got those guys. We've got Wancho, Malik, who I think could have an impact on us. And then we've still got 2 first-round picks for this next draft. So let's go. As long as we can improve next year, maybe we can have a Memphis style, like, oh, wow, they're better than we expected. And that draft pick suddenly isn't so good.
Look, you also protected it top three at least. Like
Mm,
the worst loss or the best that pick could be is fourth
right.
this year, and the 2021 first. I just feel like next year, as you said, I feel like you're gonna be better, or the Wolves are probably gonna be better than they are this year. So I see it as it's more likely to convey this year, unless and that's why like I feel like there was probably a lot of different discussions over the top three protection instead of the top four protection, because the Wolves wanted to protect that top four, and
Right.
and the Warriors were like, no, we want it top three, we want that fourth, random like lotto slot to be there, and I'm just curious like what you think about that.
I mean, so I definitely would have wanted to protect top first or top four. Whenever we do our negotiations, I
Yeah,
almost always try to do top four rather than top three, since that's where you can jump in. Because I'm not saying that I expect us to be in the playoffs
yeah,
next year. I mean, it's possible if everything goes right, but essentially, I mean, I don't know. We got 2 first-round picks for this draft. Like the 2021 draft, there's a lot that can happen before we get there. So I'm not concerned about it right now. I'm just hoping that we can make the proper moves. And D'Angelo and Carl, by all accounts, are big time homies. And so if we can keep the big cat happy, like hopefully we can just start moving. So I'm excited. I'm gonna be tuned into that first D'Angelo Wolves game. Might even have to make an appearance. I haven't been to a game yet this year. Um,
make an appearance. You have to.
yeah. So I mean, I'm just excited. Like I'm even considering getting like a D'Lo jersey. Like I'm that pumped because I just think we're gonna be fun again. Like we were fun before the Jimmy Butler trade, and then after the Jimmy Butler trade, like there was just a sense of unease with him and Tibbs in the building
Yeah.
that like we weren't that fun of a team, you know? Because it was. I mean, I'm not blaming Jimmy for all of it. But just like the chemistry was not right with those
Yeah,
guys.
you could blame him for all of it too. Like it's not really.
But now I think that we can be a fun locker room again. So I'm just hoping that everyone is having a good time out there. Like right now, the Memphis Grizzlies might be the number one team of we're having a great effing time out here, and I want us to get back to more of that.
Yeah, over 10 games out of the playoffs, so like I don't think the playoffs are really that big of a concern. So you guys are kind of slotted for that 4-5 ish range anyway
Hmm.
already. So the likely, I mean, honestly, you might even if you're like fourth or even lower than that. I don't know if that'll happen, but with D'Angelo coming, so you're probably gonna get a little bit better. But you are
Hmm.
4 games out of the third worst record in the West, the Kings. So there
Hmm.
is that gap. So like if there was a way to move up, maybe it might be it might make me think a little bit more about the pick. But yeah, honestly, like you were saying, D'Angelo just is a fun player, and he is flashy. He likes to be flashy, but he's also skilled. He's also very young. He also led the Brooklyn Nets to the playoffs and played really well last year. He was an All-Star last year. So
Yeah.
so I think that he still has a lot of room to improve. Cat is already one of the best big men out there. Um, I just think that just those two alone is big time. I would have loved to see those two and Robert Covington on the same squad,
Hmm.
but I don't think that was really ever that realistic because the other discussions were like Rocco and for D'Lo type discussions. So
Right.
yeah, and that's kind of anything else you want to talk about with this specific deal.
With this specific deal, I suppose, I'm obviously looking at it completely on one side, but for the Warriors, like if they can unlock Andrew Wiggins, like it was not going to happen here. Like what we got from Wiggins those first few weeks of the season was magical, but it's not going to happen here. So if they unlock him and he starts being a force, good for them, good for him, happy for him, totally fine. Um, but I suppose did they sell too low on D'Lo? Could they have done better this summer? I don't know. But positionally, that'd be interesting with Steph, Clay, him, and now Draymond. How all those guys play together, and then they're gonna have their top pick from this year. Obviously, the pick will come from us in the future, so it's kind of interesting. It also leaves them open to making some moves in the future as well. Trying to think of like who a good guy would be to come open on the trade market, but like Wiggins and a couple of firsts, could be pretty tantalizing to a squad, perhaps.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, we are going to go through every trade that happened today. We just started out hyped because of the the D'Lo to Minnesota. I
D'Angelo, those graphics of him in a Wolves jersey, chef's kiss,
Oh my
beautiful, so
God,
excited.
beautiful, beautiful. DJ's excited. I'm pumped. And we're, as we always do, we're probably going to try to put ourselves into the minds of each team's GM as we're discussing these, why they might have done it, and then obviously our own thoughts on whether or not we would have done it the same way. So, this deal, the details, Wiggins and a 2020. Wait, which first?
2021 Minnesota first, top three protected.
2021 Minnesota. I put the wrong pick there. 2021 Minnesota. Top four, top three protected for sure. And then Golden State sent back D'Angelo Russell, Jacob Evans, and Omari Spellman. This Evans and Spellman trades were, underrated, I think, or under talked about, obviously, because it's such a headline and we're right after the deadline, so it's not surprising that they were under talked about. But the moment it happened, I was kind of talking about it live, and I was saying we kind of had a moment to breathe between every trade today, so I could kind of go into depth on each one. So Omari Spellman, I was like, okay, they acquired him, so now they can move off Jang, and that happened.
And we
so,
did.
Yeah, and
we'll
and,
get
and
to
you
that.
did,
We'll
right?
get to
So
that. Yeah.
we'll get to that. But you were able to kind of hop in, and I was just like, okay, yeah, they like Jing versus Spellman, and then you guys have one more guy. Who was the other guy that you guys had?
Jacob Evans.
No. The big man,
moved?
Cat, and then Spellman. And
We have Nas Reed.
Okay. Never mind. I was just saying that the
who's gonna be
difference between
playing for us.
the difference between Spellman and Jang as a backup isn't really that crazy, right? So, that's why you could afford to move Jang. Anyway, and then Jacob Evans, just a flyer, honestly. He was first round pick, by the Warriors, athletic, can get to the rim. I don't know how his shot will continue to improve, but we'll see. Like, that's another flyer. Like, I like that piece because you got rid of Keita Bates-Diop on the other end, so you can kind of compare those two guys as up and coming. Like, we'll see what they become type guys. So, I think those are underrated acquisitions by Minnesota also.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. We'll have to check it out. Omari, another kind of stretchy big right there. Definitely kind of play the backup five, I think. But a couple of flyers with D'Angelo, I'm willing to take the risk.
100%. So yeah, Minnesota, clearly they needed a point guard. They didn't want to have Wiggins, and the pick was right there for them. I think Golden State needed that pick, and that's kind of the difference in Wiggins and D'Angelo Russell's value, I guess, which is interesting. And Golden State, they got rid of D'Angelo. They are locked in. That's something I did want to bring up. They are locked in to Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins for the next 3 years at 31, 69, 70, and 115-ish million.
Wow.
For the next
Holy shit.
3 years, 2 years after this one. And then Curry comes off then, but you still have 65, 98, like almost 100 mil for 4 years. And yeah, that's kind of where the Golden State Warriors are at right now. And they also, I feel like they have less than 12 guys on the roster right now.
They gave up 6 of their 14 in the deadline.
Yeah.
And they did a 3-for-1 to us. So and they gave out, was it GR3 and somebody to Philly, right?
I should have sent you my cap sheets too. But they have 9 guys on the roster right now, is what I have. I think Kai Bowman is 100% gonna get a rookie's minimum. That's kind of, I'm just assuming that. So you have Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Draymond, Kevon Looney, Jordan Poole, Eric Pascal, Alan Smailagic, Damian Lee, and Kai Bowman. That's 10. So now you need to at least get 2 more or 3 more to field the full roster, right?
And they can't start signing 10 days until, is it in March that you can start doing 10 days?
They need 2 more because right now they're paying those 2 slots to no one. They're still paying it because that's the rules. You need to pay 12
empty
people.
roster charges.
Yeah, and then So yeah, they're gonna pick up some people. I'm curious what they get. I mean, I'm sure, like, you can't tell me that there isn't two guys in the G League right now that aren't gonna be NBA rotation players in 2 years. So
Right.
it's about scouting it appropriately and picking those right guys, maybe off waivers. That's kind of what I was telling the Turkish audience. What the Golden State Warriors are gonna do is just kind of play like pick at people that are kind of dropping off the waiver wire, that are kind of coming up from the G League. It's like roster spots are, you can fill them if you know what you're doing. So we'll see what that happens. Lakers decided to go with, and that's not a trade. I just wanted to mention that the Lakers didn't make any moves, and they're just going to go after in the same strategy of buyouts and waived guys because they figured they weren't going to get the value they needed out of the trade market. So yeah, moving on to the next trade, or the other huge trade, the big 4-team trade that happened yesterday. Yes, that happened yesterday.
Feels like days ago now.
Was it yesterday, dude? I feel like it was 2 days ago.
It was, yeah.
It might have been yesterday. Whatever. Let's get to
either way. It was like super late at night, maybe 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So like the news dropped, and we were all talking about it yesterday.
Exactly.
Yes,
it was like 11:30 p.m.
I was
the
already
day
asleep.
before. I was definitely looking at it. That's why I was like, it was definitely 2 days ago. But yeah, a lot of the talk happened afterwards. So, and this also is what led into the trade we just talked about between Golden State and Minnesota, because Minnesota was able to acquire a first-round pick from Brooklyn. I guess it didn't really matter too much, but I think that kind of was part of their thinking too. Is like, oh, we got another first too here. We can get rid of a first in 2021, when we think we're going to be better. So anyway, the trade I'm talking about, the 4-team trade, Minnesota received Juancho Hernan-Gomez, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Evan Turner, and the Brooklyn first-round pick in 2020 that was at either Denver or Atlanta. I forgot. I think Atlanta had it. And then Denver received Keita Bates-Diop, Noah Vonleh, Shabazz Napier, Gerald Green, and Houston's first-round pick. Atlanta receives Clint Capella and Nene. And then Houston receives Robert Covington, Jordan Bell, 2024 Atlanta second, very crucial second-round pick thrown in there in 2024 by Atlanta to make this 4-team deal all work out. So this also involves Minnesota, DJ, and you guys, your roster, your cap sheet is so colorful on my end, because
Right.
I don't change the colors when trades happen just to kind of have a feel for who came from another team. And you guys have Warriors, Nuggets, Hawks here, like just Miami also. So you guys were extremely active, and I'm curious what you thought about this trade when it happened.
Hilariously, our second large contract that we got from Atlanta this season with Evan Turner, as opposed to Allen Crabbe. All right. So something I don't think I ever mentioned, but when I controlled the Wolves in our negotiations throughout the years, I hardly ever put in Shabazz Napier and Noah Vonleh, because they came and played in the Twin Cities Pro-Am a couple of times. So those were my guys.
That was so crucial.
So I was like, well, if I don't trade them and we re-sign them, they might play again. So I like had that in my mind, that I didn't want to get rid of them. So they keep coming back.
Sense, yeah.
But all right, so for the Wolves, we trade Robert Covington, probably at the peak of what we could get for him too. Like the whole like Robert Covington's actually overrated. There's a couple of storylines coming out of that I found, interesting to hear their side of the argument. For us, we got Juancho and Beasley, who aren't bad players, but also don't have like a chance in Denver. So maybe a chance here. They could prove to be stable rotation players versus just kind of bench guys. Fingers crossed. Denver didn't really want to hold on to them, obviously, because they were going to need to pay them. And man, their luxury tax could have been massive this next year, so it's kind of backing up for them. Evan Turner, we'll see. I heard some rumors that we maybe would buy him out, or else perhaps he's going to be our backup point guard, like he was Atlanta's backup point guard. So we'll have to see. And then the Brooklyn first. So now we have 2 first-round picks in the 2020 draft, which gives us some nice flexibility. We have, stepping on the future here, James Johnson's contract that is into next year. But if we also moved on from that, we have now Turner and Crabbe expiring. Perhaps we could entice a team to take on James Johnson if we wanted a lot of cap room. We'll have to see. So for us, I mean, I think it's fine. We weren't good. Like, we sucked this year. So to get Juancho and Beasley, hopefully they're something for us. Hopefully they work out. And then, we've got this first round pick that if we do it right, we might be back on the upswing here.
I think that this trade, a lot of pieces remind me of a lot of other things in the NBA. So for me, Malik Beasley, one, you can think of it this way. What is like the true difference in impact between playing Malik Beasley and Robert Covington? I think Covington is like a lot better defender just because he's bigger, but I think Beasley's a good defender and is athletic and can shoot and can do like a lot of things. So you can compare it that way, or you can just compare it to the Kawhi Siakam transitioning into Siakam OG scenario, where I think Okogie, I just wanted to make that rhyme, Okogie, can step into the Robert Covington role, like I feel like he could do it pretty seamlessly if he develops the way he has been. Um,
Right.
and then Malik Beasley I think, is better than Keita Bates-Diop, which you lost in this deal, which we mentioned earlier. But you also got Jacob Evans. So I think that little mix definitely makes up for what Robert Covington brings you on the floor. Now you got Wancho, who is a smart player, can make plays and read the game and score too. Not the best defender, which is going to be this team's main problem anyway, but like you said,
Yeah.
you have firsts that you can now use to get players. It only takes one offseason to completely change how your trajectory is going. And the Wolves are in a situation where they have a lot of pieces. That's why the Denver Nuggets were so looked at as a trade destination, because they just had so many different packages that you can
They
send.
could do anything that they wanted to. They had young prospects, they had,
Yeah.
veterans, they had, a blue chip in Michael Porter if they really wanted to go swinging. They could have done whatever they wanted to this deadline.
Yeah, so now they still have the ability to trade a first round pick in next year's draft because of this Brooklyn one. And then like anything else, like Jared Vanderbilt can play defense too, but I just think that flexibility is going to help the Wolves if they play it right.
Right.
And that's the whole thing, is you got to play it right. I don't think it's a bad situation though, and you can definitely make something out of it. A lot of people look at the current like on court product a lot of the time, and like the current situation. I just feel like, what other moves are one move off from your current roster? If you have all of those listed, then the discussion becomes very different. So anyway, that's kind of how I like to think about things. Let's move on to the Denver side. Keita Bates-Diop, Noah Vonleh, Shabazz Napier, Gerald Green, and Houston's 2020 first round pick. Did you see protections on that? I couldn't find any protections listed for that one. So
If anything, I'm assuming that it's like lottery protected and thus like definitely going to
yeah,
convey.
either way, I didn't spend the extra time just because of that. Like if it's top 3 unprotected or 15, like it's the same thing. It's going to be in the playoffs. So
Right.
so yeah, and then so just my own thoughts on the Denver Nuggets side of the things, like losing Malik Beasley and Hernan Gomez is tough, but like I said, you can kind of compare Keita Bates-Diop in that way to Malik Beasley. He could definitely give you what Malik's been giving you if he improves a little bit more. Vonleh, and Shabazz is great. They moved on from Shabazz, which we'll get to, and then Gerald Green, can might be waived, might stay on the team and give them minutes off the wing, but they're just still just as deep. They didn't lose any depth. All of these players are quality players. They just gained a Houston 2020 first. And in drafts like these, where the top line, or at least what I'm hearing, I haven't done my own draft scouting yet, but if it is like the draft experts say, then the top being not very strong generally leads, and just a not really good quote unquote draft to begin with, it really leads to a lot more variance in the 20 to like 40 range, where you can pick, or 10 to 40 range for that matter, where any first round pick could really matter if you pick the gem that always exists post pick 20. So these picks are important, I think.
Yeah, so for Denver, it's similar to what I was thinking when we did our big trade deadline with Garrett, where kind of resetting the clock.
Hmm.
Wancho and Malik were going to need to get paid, and a team, all they need to do is do the math that, oh, if we give Malik Beasley, 16 mil a year, Denver would have to go way into the tax to sign that, so we could probably get him. So yeah, recouping that first for those two, and then resetting the clock a little bit with Keita Bates-Diop. And then surprising, I was surprised that they then traded Shabazz. So we'll have to see, but they're arming up. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if Bradley Beal would come on the trade market this summer, I don't think he would, but if he was there, I think that Denver would be a prime team, and we might have even fake traded Beal over to Denver once or twice, um, to go after him because they could definitely have some ammo now with this Houston first because theirs is going to Oklahoma City, I believe, right, with the Jeremy Grant trade.
Theirs is, yeah, they don't have their own 2020, so that gives
Hmm.
you flexibility for trading next year's pick, or just trading the Houston pick or whatever that you might want to do. An extra first always adds extra flexibility.
Yeah.
And they didn't lose any like for me, I don't think they lost a lot of incremental talent unless there was like a lot of team chemistry. But Wancho and Beasley were getting squeezed out of the rotation a lot of the time. Not Beasley more so, but anyway, Atlanta got Capella and Nene for just kind of not facilitating. They gave up the Brooklyn first and Evan Turner,
Hmm.
um, and that's kind of all they gave up. The Brooklyn
Yeah,
first and Evan
yeah, they were
Turner,
the least involved as far as number of people.
but they got Capella.
Hmm.
So, like Atlanta, that's why I said like for being involved, it wasn't involved like that. Brooklyn first does hold value, but Evan Turner was expiring 18.6 that like didn't really matter to them in the grand scheme of this season, and moving forward, obviously. So Capella getting them for just that Brooklyn pick, which you know might be protected or might just be like 16, 17. I think Capella is definitely where you have control. You can play down like high low with John Collins, athletic fun pick and rolls with Trey Young. That like I just feel like that's gonna be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, just like you said, that first that they're going to get from Brooklyn, at what point do you kind of get, some more vets in the room? Clint's been there before. He shredded the Wolves in the playoffs almost 2 years ago. I think it was the 2018 playoffs that we were in. So, yeah, I'm excited for Clint's on the Hawks. I think that that's not too much to give up, and if he's kind of your center of the future moving forward here, I know that they probably want to make some big leaps next year and be competing for a playoff spot next year. They've already got their own first round pick. Slide that in with Trey, John Collins, and him. Maybe you've got, DeAndre Hunter or who is there? Oh, Kevin Herter doing a little bit better for him. So they've got a nice young core. I think they're a fun team, and I think Clinton is probably going to really help out.
Yeah, and he's under control too for the
What is he? 3 more
three
years
more
after
years
this?
after this. And I mean, whether
Solid.
that's a good or bad thing, I don't know. It's 16 million next year, 17 the year after 18.2. I think that's a pretty average price for a starting center. It does allow you to go spend a
Right.
little bit more in other positions, in that regard. So and then Houston, all right, dude. Like I don't know where to start with the putting myself into their shoes or not, but I feel like you need a big man to
They are
play
on one right
to,
now.
to play basketball. Like you need at least one big man. Like I'm not
I
sa-
tell you what, I love playing with a big dominant center. Like I was thinking about this today, like Andre Drummond in his prime when he was just like a fierce like pick and roll player finishing lob dunks and grabbing every rebound. That's like
there
my
are
ideal guy to play with.
there are and okay, look, I'm not obviously the Rockets know what they're doing. They're smart people, so I'm sure they're going to go into the buyout, see who's going to be waived like big men. The incrementality of big men, you can definitely find just as good of a backup
Do
big
you
man.
think that they think they're getting Tristan Thompson?
Yeah, like that might be a thing that they have intel on or just something that they're betting on, and if not, we'll just go get like whoever is
Yeah.
remaining, right? Like I need to go back and see actually who's available as a free agent center, but I'm sure they can pick a guy up, or have someone's gonna waive someone at some point. So yeah, that's what they're banking on. Um,
That's what I'm maybe thinking cuz I mean they obviously like ducked down under the tax
no,
to
but
right? Didn't they?
they they had to. I didn't do exactly that calculation, but I would be extremely shocked if they didn't. The thing
Yeah,
is,
Covington makes 3.5 less than Clint.
you could have said like I was like, okay, at least that like they were smart, and then they got Jordan Bell,
Hmm.
in this deal as well. So they got Robert Covington, Jordan Bell, and the 2024 Atlanta second. Jordan Bell was like, all right, this guy can definitely equate to Capella. He was coming out the draft. We're like, look, like Capella's having this moment in Houston. Like we can definitely go, and that's why people were high on Bell coming out. And maybe you can just put him in the exact Capella role, and Harden could just make Jordan Bell be better. Like I was kind of thinking, okay, that does make a little bit of sense to me. I'm down for that, Rocco and
But
Bell.
then,
But then you trade Jordan Bell for Bruno Caboclo. What's going on?
hey, Bruno's here. You know, he was 2 years away from being 2 years away
He's
4 years
here.
ago.
He
He
is
is
here.
here.
He is
It's
definitely here.
time.
It's
Bruno unleashed.
Oh my goodness. I know there's some reasoning. Like I don't think people make
Right.
decisions for no reason. So I always give people benefit of the doubt. I It's just not what I would have done. I don't have all the information though.
I
So
mean, if
like
Tristan goes there in the buyout, I think then you're totally fine.
well yeah, that's what I'm
But
saying.
if you
Is
don't get
That's
Tristan,
what they're
like,
banking on. For me, it was just like you could get Tristan and still have like I'm just saying why go get Caboclo for Bell? Like I'm very
right.
curious. I am very very curious to see their metrics and what their scouting report on Bruno Caboclo is and on Jordan Bell. Both. I want to see both because I want to
Well, because
see.
I tell you what, obviously Bell was on the Wolves. Like he never really broke through the rotation all that much, you know. Like even when Cat was out, like we had Gorgie starting for us. So like I thought he could
That's what I'm
maybe
saying.
be
Bell might not be good. Sorry.
interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. Is like I thought he could maybe be interesting, like even next to Towns. You know, the fact that Towns has so much range means
Yeah.
you can put someone next to him without as much range. But yeah, I think he's just not as effective as obviously what they were looking for because they were ready to move on from him. And Bruno makes a little bit more money than he does. You know, 225,000, which we usually don't look at, but in their case, this close to the luxury tax when they're trying to stay out of it, kind of makes a difference on the buyout market.
It does, and I don't know. I'm very curious what they're gonna do for the big man position. Maybe they just won't play a big man. They've innovated before. Um,
Because they had that few games in there where they weren't playing like anyone over 6'6". They're just going super small.
yeah, and that's fine. I'm not even against that. I'm just saying like they're going full all in because I know who was it? I think maybe Zach Lowe was talking about this a couple weeks ago. How teams just don't start their best lineups just kind of as like a truce. Like, all right, you guys start your big man and we'll start our big man. Like Montrezl
Yeah.
Harrell, and Miami Heat with like Myers Leonard and who else? There was a couple other ones where it was just like an understood pact, and then Houston like breaking a pact is there's nothing more Houston than breaking a pact like
hmm
that. Like fully, all right, no, we're not playing any big men. Screw you guys. Like if you guys are comfortable with your centers guarding our quickness, then go ahead and just fully committing to that. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like there's reasonings that went behind this decision, and I'm just curious. Like I'm just curious
Well,
what they
and
were.
I suppose the fact that like Harden and Westbrook are actually like really good rebounders for their position,
Yeah.
you know, probably plays into it that I mean, when you're a kid and you're like doing the travel basketball tryouts, all the big guys make teams. Most not always because they're the most skilled, but just because like you think you need size because otherwise you go up against a team with size and they just grab every offensive rebound and put it right back
Yeah,
in.
yeah. The thing is though, there are, and my main objection to this, and we'll move on after I say this, but my main thing is there are possessions in basketball where being taller is just gets you like 6 to 8 points a game. Like it
hmm
just does. I'm gonna count those possessions when I watch Houston games from now on. If they don't get it, like I just want to see because there are points given up, and then but the thing is, all right, yes, we agree to that, but how many points are we picking up back up because we're so
Right,
much quicker?
because we're nailing corner threes left and
Yeah.
right.
So then that's a valid answer back. So and that's just kind of why I'm curious. We'll find out. The other deal that kind of resulted or came after this one was Shabazz Napier did not stay with the Denver Nuggets. Instead, he was traded to Washington, who I have thoughts about as a whole. And Denver received Jordan McRae, who had that 30 plus point outburst a few weeks ago.
hmm
I think it was against the Miami Heat, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, McRae, when he's gotten shine this season, he's been playing well. I watched a couple Wizards games. I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch all the Wizards games. So McRae did stand out in those games that I watched, and it's just like a wing kind of. I watch a lot more Denver, so now I'll get a better look at him if he cracks the rotation. But I think that that's huge. And anyone like Terrence Davis, that's why I was so hesitant on the Toronto Raptors trade deadline to trade Terrence Davis. Any guy that's kind of like, getting his shot and then proving it and then staying consistent and then still playing, like, that's a guy I want to see. All right, you're showing growth. Like, where is this growth going to end? And if it doesn't, then you're Siakam, right? So that's kind of what I want to see with guys like this a lot of the time. Shabazz Napier, like, I don't understand why the Wizards are just collecting all the undersized, no defense point guards. First they got IT, who they traded, but now they got Shabazz Napier, and then they already have Ish Smith, and then, or did they trade Ish Smith? Anyway, they got one other guy today. Jerome Robinson. There we go. Mm-hmm. Jerome Robinson. We'll get to that. But yeah, Wizards, interesting. Any thoughts on this one?
I mean, not too many. Shabazz on the Wizards, it's more interesting if John Wall's there and he's backing him up, because I think that Shabazz is one of the better backup point guards around. But yeah, like, otherwise it's going to be a pretty, low trade, I think, as far as effect moving forward, unless, McRae really blows up and becomes a important part of the Denver rotation.
100%. And yeah, the Wiggins deal kind of happened after this one. It wasn't really connected, but slightly connected just because of what Minnesota was kind of up to. Miami, Memphis, and then Minnesota slid in there last minute.
Let's go. We're everywhere.
Minnesota slid in there again. That's crazy. I didn't plan it to have all the Minnesota ones in order, but it worked out. So Miami receives Andre Iguodala, Solomon Hill, and Jay Crowder with some effort to go get Gallinari, which we'll get to. They couldn't do that, though. Memphis gets James Johnson, Justice Winslow, and Dion Waiters at first, and then Minnesota slides in and takes away James Johnson from Memphis, gives up Gorgie Dieng, like we were saying. They just got another playmaker, and that's what I was thinking with the Wolves is they had no playmaker before today because D'Angelo Russell wasn't on the team, and Shabazz Napier, like, he's more of a scorer, like, he can make some plays, but then they go from that to D'Lo, Evan Turner, James Johnson, like a lot of, like, D'Lo obviously can make a lot of plays, but James Johnson and who else? Evan Turner. Evan Turner both just kind of sliding over. And then Hernan Gomez can kind of, make a play now and then. So just getting a lot of big guys like wings or power forwards that can also, make smart plays was interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Gorgie's probably a little more effective than James Johnson. Obviously, he missed some of that time earlier in the season.
Yeah.
We saved $2 million on James Johnson's contract versus Gorgie's contract next year, so all about it. Gorgie, you were great for us, but I'm not going to be too disappointed to see you go. For Memphis, though, to get Justice Winslow, pair him back up with Tyus Jones, the old Duke buddies, I'm a big fan of that. I think
that's big time.
Dion still has a couple of years on the contract now, right? Does he have...
Dion has one more year at 12. 12,
okay, because
yeah.
He doesn't really fit. Like, Dylan Brooks is obviously, he just signed that extension, like, going to be like the main guy there. So, like, I don't really want Dion taking shots away in Memphis. We'll have to see if they use him in a future deal or anything. But Gorgie, I suppose you could try some Gorgie, Jaren Jackson lineup, see how you like it. Get another big body out there. But Justice and Tyus back together, I always get excited about that kind of thing. Just like I'm excited about D'Lo and Cat back together. I shouldn't say back together if they never played together, but they're homies. So now they're together.
Playing with the homies is always a good time. Yeah, and then, like, this deal, let's get to the Miami side, because I watch a lot of Miami, probably the second most team I watch.
Andre Iguodala, my God, what a king. Just not play and sign that extension, go to South Beach, incredible. So excited for him.
Dude. For the Heat culture, like, he just took a rest. He just got a rest. Like, he's gonna come in full healthy. Like, they'll probably ease him in, and then he just literally just for the playoffs. He's like, all right, I can't just hop. Much, yeah. He was just like, because he can't just hop in game one of the playoffs, right? So he's kind of just like, all right, I need to play some games. Let me just slide through at the trade deadline. Get, like, the team's gonna get a week off, and then I'll just go right in there and start playing and warm up for the playoffs against teams that are, tanking or like have clinched, so they're resting, and then just bam, go all out in the playoffs. What a great move by Andre.
In Miami, that 4 spot there, obviously, like, Bam's our guy at the 5. So to put Andre in at that spot with, his championship equity, Jimmy Butler, and then they've just got that bevy of guards that basically it's play the hot hand. Is it Nunn, Dragic, Duncan Robinson, Harrow, who's having the big game? Like that's a team that just got scarier, like big time in the East. They just got scarier, and then Jay Crowder coming off the bench for him too. Like he can give him fine minutes.
Look, and this is exact to everyone who is against Iggy and like is like, oh, you're getting paid to sit down. Like, what are you doing? And like, all these people mad at Iggy for something that was clearly to start was mutual. Like,
Yeah,
you can.
that's the big thing.
This was exactly what Memphis wanted to happen. 100%. This are like, oh, Iguodala and a first just because you don't want to pay him. 100% will take a first for an asset that is also worth a first.
You essentially got paid a first to take
a first. That's how
Justice
Memphis viewed
Winslow
this.
and Justice Winslow.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. That like a first or Justice Winslow or like whatever. Maybe Justice Winslow isn't worth a first, but a player like Winslow or a first or whatever. Like that's what Memphis saw happening, and then they got better. So then they were like, "Yo, Iggy, like, are you trying to play?" I don't know if Memphis actually did this. This is what people get mad about. Is like, "Oh, but they're in the playoffs now. He could have been mentoring young players." I mean, yeah, but he was already moved on the moment the trade happened because they had already discussed this.
Right. And I think that that's sometimes overblown, like the veteran mentor. Some guys really take to that, and other guys, I mean, they're coworkers, and it's different because they're on a team and there's that bond and they're spending a lot more time together than, I'm going to say normal people would, because my coworkers are my fam, so like I spend plenty of time with those guys. But that was the deal. Memphis said, yeah, like you don't need to come here. Like that's fine. Like, you just do your thing. We'll do our thing, and then we'll try to move you. And boom, they got value.
They got immense value. Memphis being in the right place at the right time.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness! Like a first rounder and Justice Winslow just for kind of being there. Like again, just for being there.
And that's what you got to do, and you got to get lucky sometimes. You got to be in the right place, because I mean, Memphis before they got Ja Morant, it wasn't looking that rosy there. Ja's been a hit, Dylan's looking great, and now they've got Justice coming into the fold with that extra first coming. Like, excited about Memphis right now. They've got some spicy curry cooking.
Like the past year and a half for Memphis is textbook what every other team that is just not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of do, right? Because how many teams I don't know. There was at least Chicago, which is in my mind, last year who could have taken Iggy if they wanted to. If
the Wolves wouldn't have given out the contracts they did and had the room, either get D'Lo, or if that doesn't work out, Iggy would have been wonderful here, and maybe he would want to play, maybe he wouldn't. But if we had been able to flip, Iggy coming here for a first and Justice, like that's awesome.
It's also, I feel like it has to be where teams reach out in these sorts of situations to teams that can already do it, right? So it's not that like, oh, but we didn't even know that was available. It's because you weren't in the situation that the opportunity didn't present itself to you.
Or if they didn't call you, it's because they don't trust that you can get it done. Obviously Minnesota and Atlanta are just wheeling and dealing. We've made lots of trades with them the last few years.
True.
Now, Gerson Rosas coming here, he's got that relationship with Daryl Morey down in Houston. So then, we worked ourselves into that Clint Capella deal. Like, if you're not the one that they want to call, like, they know the ones that they're like, yeah, we can't do that. Either they'll leak it or, they're just going to play us along. So to be that team that it's like, would you guys do this? Like, oh, yeah, we could make that work. That's valuable.
I mean, it also goes back to John Hollinger and Duncan is a podcast that I would recommend anyone who's not listening to listen to, especially when Hollinger goes into his basketball inner workings discussions, which is like once every episode almost. So he was talking about how, and it makes so much sense too, it's not something new, but you do trades with people that you're close to and trust and are friends with. So the more teams that you are friends with and trust, the more opportunity will present itself to you. Just another note to front offices who don't really want to get along with other teams. Not that, everyone gets along with other people too. So like there's deals that happen between, it's almost cliquey in a way. Like you can definitely pick out certain duos or trios that do a lot of trades with each other. Anyway, that's a whole nother exercise. where are we? Miami, Memphis, Minnesota. We did that. We talked about every side here. Dion Waiters and Gorgie Dang also with Memphis. Need to mention that Dion Waiters was there for the money. I think Miami was like, look, like, we're giving you Winslow. We at least want Crowder and Solomon Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And maybe they said you have to take Dion. You can't get like Kelly or Myers, just because I don't think Dion makes any sense for the Memphis future, like given who they already have in those guard spots.
I think that's where the deal really, found its value. It's like, look, like we're giving you Justice Winslow. Like for Iguodala, you're not getting this. You're not getting anything better than Justice Winslow right now. So we're gonna need to sweeten it in other ways. How are we gonna sweeten it? All right, we're gonna give you James Johnson, who has a player option for 15 next year. All right, we're gonna give you Dion Waiters, who who knows with Dion Waiters, his 12 million next year and this year might just not be useful at all. And it might be good. He might pop out. Who knows? But like it's a super highly variant.
Right.
And then all right, Jay Crowder, reliable, cheap contract, can play defense, has been in big games. Solomon Hill, who actually has been playing decently with Memphis, who is going to slide right into the Miami rotation. They got rid of the kind of salary weight and the, oh shit, we have 2 roster spots and 25 million to people that aren't really even the reason why we're successful, to Jay Crowder and Solomon Hill, who can definitely slide in. Andre Iguodala better than Winslow today, I would definitely argue. So Miami really killed it. I
like what they did.
Yeah, people I was like, ooh, they gave up Justice Winslow. But then like looking more detailed into it, it's like, okay, Miami really killed it. Like I really like what Miami did here. Winslow has been hurt, and yeah, I think Memphis killed. I think both teams here killed it, and then Minnesota just kind of was like, "Yo, do you want Dang?"
Yeah, I mean, because Dang's going to give you more minutes than James Johnson, and positionally it makes more sense for both teams. So for us, it was just like we get to save a little bit of money, and get Spellman some run. Let's go. I love it.
Get Spellman some run. I do like Spellman. Clippers, New York, and Washington involved in a 3-team deal, which sent Marcus Morris to the Clippers. The one LA team that was active today, much to Lakers fans' chagrin. I hope I said that word right. New York, Harkless, picked up Harkless, which I think, but the difference between Harkless and Morris isn't, crazy different. So you get Harkless, not that New York is competitive. You get the Clippers' first-round pick, 2020. I'm guessing there's some sort of protections on it. It doesn't really matter. And then 2021 Detroit second-round pick as well. And because of some reason that I read and I forgot, the Clippers had to move off a player, so they gave Jerome Robinson to the Wizards. I think that's what it was. I'm a little bit curious. I'll relook at that. But what do you think of this deal?
Yeah, it was a little bit confusing, and then obviously IT went to the Clippers, but then the Clippers are like, we're just gonna immediately waive him.
Oh,
was that a part of this too, right?
Yeah, I forgot to add. See, I tweeted all these trades out, and I was like, I definitely messed something up here. This was too.
Mm-hmm. There's so much going on. There's a lot. So I don't know why you had to send out Jerome, and then because the LA first and the Detroit second both came from the Clippers, if I'm not mistaken.
So for me, I was like, look.
Why?
This is a big price for Marcus Morris. How I justified it in my head was Marcus Morris's ceiling. If you recall the beginning of last year for the Celtics, Marcus Morris was all-star level, 60% true shooting, solid. It was crazy. So they're like, all right, we're playing for a championship is a ceiling play every single time. So the Marcus Morris ceiling is a lot higher. I think a lot higher than Mo Harkless, and the floor is also lower than Harkless's floor. I feel actually not really. Their floor is both pretty bad.
Honestly, I Marcus definite upgrade. Watching him, Paul George, Kawhi, and Pat Beverly walk onto the floor would be a little scary.
And Montrezl Harrell, that's just
those guys will ooh, like that's like an all-time like dark alley like crew right there. Like if I saw those guys walking up,
100%,
I'd
dude.
just be like, holy shit. If they could get Markeith too, that would have been
Oh my
hilarious.
God.
I always love like putting the brothers together type of stuff. But yeah, I love that addition for him. You know, definitely like Jerome. I don't know if Jerome was considered to have, value across the league, obviously
What
in his,
happened
only
there, man?
second year.
What happened there where you're just gonna randomly pick Jerome Robinson? Like, I'm just curious, like, who in the
So
room was
strange.
making that decision and why? Because you could have sold me on Jerome Robinson. I saw him turn up in Boston College. So I'm just like, okay, let's see what he actually sees. That's why I was so curious about what Jerome Robinson was gonna be because he was picked that high. But now it's just like,
Yeah.
all right, he might get there. We picked him because he might get there, but this deal isn't gonna happen if we don't include him. And I don't understand why though. Like
And like, why is Washington even in this deal? I mean, I
there
guess
was roster space. I'm gonna find this. There was roster space issues here.
okay. Um. Oh, I suppose New York probably said we can't take a second player. Like we're gonna give you Mark. We just need one for one. So then you need the third team.
That's
But
what
it
it
was
was.
still,
Yeah, that's what it
yeah. But
was.
it was still strange to be sure. Definitely a little bit out there. New York, way to get value out of Marcus, and you stole him from the Spurs, and that's essentially they used 15 million in cap space, slightly less now that Maurice on the prorated differential between his contract and Marcus
All
Morris's
right.
contract, but get a good second and a fine first, not great, but that's how you just basically spend money and then flip it and get draft capital.
How heated was the debate between the Clippers trying to get New York Knicks to waive someone? Because if that's literally the only
Trying to get
reason,
who, the Knicks to waive someone?
yeah, the Knicks to waive someone. Because Washington just swept in and got Jerome Robinson, like just for being
Yeah,
there.
that's not bad.
So many things happening just for being there. Oh my God, why can't like the Bulls just be there? That's kind of what I'm just thinking. So many deals
Right.
just because you're there. Um, and yeah, they picked up Jerome Robinson, man. Good pickup. Like I kind of was making fun of the Washington Wizards kind of moves here, but I like Shabazz Napier. I say that wrong every time. Jordan McRae that's a questionable deal, but like Shabazz is decent. And then Jerome Robinson they just picked up, and they already had the other guys. Like you don't just not pick up Jerome Robinson if he's just available.
Yeah. Why not? Just take him and maybe it works out. You never know.
100%. Let's move on to the most surprising trade.
What was this one? Honestly, like, wow.
Dude, see, that's why I love trying. That's why I love putting myself into the shoes of the front office, because now I was able to at least justify a little bit some of it. So let's talk about the deal. Detroit sends Brandon Knight, or receives Brandon Knight, John Henson, and 2023 worst second between Golden State and Cleveland
It's
for
like not even a real pick, I swear.
for Andre Drummond. What is going on, DJ?
Honestly, when I saw this, I was almost upset. Like, why didn't the Wolves get in on this just to like add another big guy? Because like at least he's a big boy. Like him next to Cat isn't ideal. But like this is literally expiring contracts and like a second that 2023 for Golden State. Are you just hoping that by that time they're either all injured again or all like have
How is it the
left,
worst?
and that
How is
it's
it the
the
worst one?
31st?
I guess that's maybe what
Unreal.
Cleveland had, but Cleveland had their own
Yeah, yeah,
second too. So they definitely
I
did that one like on purpose.
yeah, and they didn't give up like a second this year or like swap rights or anything. Like it's just Andre Drummond for expiring contracts, essentially. I mean, maybe there's thoughts moving forward of whether or not Andre's going to opt in or opt out. Like, is he actually going to opt out? But then, like, why would? Because Detroit doesn't have Blake for the rest of the year. So, like, if Andre was going to opt out, why would you do this? Like, it has to be, you'd think, Andre's going to opt in and they just wanted to get off the money, right? Like, why else would you do it if you're Detroit?
So this is my reasoning, and I honestly didn't realize how crazy it was because I was looking at that 2023 pick as this year's pick for some reason. Okay, what is going on with my? I need to exit.
Right, because if it was this year's, like the worst of Golden State and Cleveland, like that's still a top 10 second round pick.
That's what I was saying, and that's because I don't know. That's how my mind worked live talking about this trade. But now seeing that it's 2023, it's even like Golden State is gonna be good, probably.
You'd think. I
You know, and
mean,
even if not, it's like a 2023 top 40 pick, like at the
you have
best
to
case
wait so
scenario,
long for that.
right? So it's like actually just expiring contracts, which I didn't pick up on. So it makes even less sense because you know how I was saying like, oh, good thing I put myself into this situation of the GMs. Like for me, now I'm putting myself in the Detroit situation, and it's like my reasoning was if I'm gonna lose Andre Drummond anyway, might as well get something. Might as
Right.
well get something.
But
So
what did they get?
so I was just like, and I was like, okay, at least a 2020 pick, second round pick this year is good, but that's not what happened. It's a 2023 pick, which is just like, okay, okay, you got something. Like was that tells me this? Was there no other deals for Drummond? Like zero other deals, or were you that against the possibility of Drummond picking up his player option, or were the only trades available things that had money on your books for the next 1 or 2 years? Like I'm just so curious at the depth
Ki-
of understanding what was available here.
for Cleveland, just no brainer. Like, oh, we get a decent vet in here, even if he opts in. Like, put him next to Kevin Love. Why not? Right? Like, it's just, oh, cool. We get like a former All Star. You can kind of sell the fans. Oh, you need a
Oh my
2023
god.
second. Like,
Just got Andre Drummond for players that, Henson was in the but like they're not part of the future. They're not part of the plans. They're expiring this year. Brandon Knight
yeah,
barely played the past 2-3 years anyway, so you never know with him. And for me, I was just like, oh, you just got rid of a really solid second for no reason when I first saw it. But now I'm just like, oh no, for sure, that's easily
oh yeah,
100%. Even if Andre walks, like okay, we got Andre Drummond for you know, half a year, with the potential of maybe extending him if he plays well, or like maybe he plays well and he's still 25, 26 years old, so he can be that good big man for our young players that need to develop.
hmm
Obviously, I don't know like Andre Drummond's mindset and how he's going to approach things. I don't know him personally, so is there going to be fits? Is he going to like really go hard to earn a really nice contract? Or like, I don't know how he's going to take it because it's tough. You just got traded for almost nothing to Cleveland, whose
oh,
situation,
that's a tough look.
like just putting
Yeah,
myself into Drummond's shoes, I'm just like, what am I going to do here? It's tough. I'm curious how he rebounds from this. So, and literally rebounds from this too.
hmm and
uh,
this is why I'm thinking that it's a possibility that perhaps Tristan's already like said, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like I'd like a buyout because to get Andre, you're gonna trade for Andre and not start him. You're gonna
oh no,
bench Tristan and have Tristan and Nance as your backups. It's kind of
I mean,
a logjam.
you're gonna start Drummond. I literally, when I
Right.
first heard this, because I was updating cap sheets live, um, so I put in Tristan Thompson. It was just like Andre Drummond to the Caps, and I was like, oh, easily Tristan Thompson's in this deal. So
Okay.
I put Tristan Thompson in Detroit, and then it was just like, oh, it's Brendan Knight and John Henson, so I had to move them out. Um, so yeah, I mean, Detroit, like, you really, really, really didn't want Drummond on your squad. Um, anyway,
Yeah, this is a takeaway that I don't see another one.
yeah, exactly. Philadelphia, Golden State. This happened yesterday night. Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson for 3 second rounders. Golden State, or they send Golden State 2020 Dallas second, 2021 Denver second. I have first. This is here. That is incorrect.
Good, good. Because when I was reading that, I was like, "There's no way," and I've been looking like the last 10
I need
minutes
to
just to be like,
I need
"What
to.
is that?"
Yeah, I need to resend that tweet. There's a couple mistakes on here. Anyway, 2022 Toronto second. Fully updated cap sheets on the Iconic Hoops newsletter. Anyway, moving on. Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson, perfect pieces for Philly, I would say. I mean,
Glenn Robinson's been playing well.
I
Like,
wanted Glenn Robinson on there just like from the start. I was like, very gettable piece for any
yeah,
contender. Like Glenn Robinson was on my radar for not just Philly, for every other team that could use a 3 and D wing. Like, hey, look, you can probably get him for a second or two. And that's exactly what happened. You got him for a second and a half because Alec Burks also can get a bucket and maybe in the right system, especially with a defensive team like Philly. You can use Alec Burks' creation. Not going to pass a lot, but spark plug would be fine. But yeah,
Yeah.
what do you think of this deal? I mean, we're getting into the deals where it's just like end of the bench guys, cash salary type stuff. So
Yep, Golden State saves a bunch of money on that one. They want to get under the tax. They want to have enough money to be able to, put those guys in place. But, Philly just picks up two decent backup wings that, I thought, is what Ennis and even last year, who did they trade Markel Fultz for? The
Ennis,
Simpsons? But no, they
was it
also
John
got
Simmons?
Jonathan Simmons,
Yeah,
yes, from San Antonio.
yeah.
So, yeah, Philly just rounding out that bench essentially, trying to find some, good contributors. Nothing wrong with that, and none of those seconds look to be premium. So, pretty low risk, high reward, I'd say.
Golden State stockpiling picks.
Yeah, they're gonna have to start spending a couple of those.
They got the 2021 Wolves pick. They got the 3 second rounders. They got another. They got something else. They got a second from Dallas, the Utah 2020 second, for Willie Cauley-Stein. They need to use roster spots though. They have two people they need to add after, assuming that they add Kai Bowman. So 3 players they need to add on their roster. Moving on to the next trade, Atlanta got not only Capella as their big man, but Dwayne Dedmon
Dwayne
returning.
Dedmon returns.
Returns to Atlanta where he got his, start as like, oh, Dwayne Dedmon's a player kind of vibe. Started in Atlanta. Sacramento received Jabari Parker and Alex Len. What'd you think about this one?
No picks or cash, right?
I
Just
did.
players
Yeah,
for
no.
players?
I think it was just Dedmon for Jabari and Len.
I mean, I guess it's interesting. Jabari, does he have a player option for next year? Is it, or is he on the books for 6.5?
Sorry, say that again.
Is Jabari on the books next year, or are like he and Alex possible free agents?
Jabari is not on the books for next year.
Interesting, because I mean, to get Dwayne Dedmon, you got to pay him. Or maybe I'm getting him twisted with Corey Joseph. Dwayne Dedmon's only guaranteed $1 million for next year, isn't he?
Player option 6.5 for Jabari.
All right. I thought he might have had an option. And
Yeah.
then Dwayne Dedmon, is he $1 million guaranteed for next year, or is he 2 years and then $1 million guaranteed the year after that?
13 million guaranteed next year, and then 2 million guaranteed the third year, or 1 million. Sorry, 1 million guaranteed the third. year.
Okay. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, basically just looking at some of those guys. So for Atlanta, it's interesting, taking up a little more cap room than I'd expect, but they're punting on cap space for this summer and maybe targeting 2021. Kind of interesting. It's one of those, like, I'm not sure exactly why they did it, especially after getting Capella. But maybe they felt like they wanted Dwayne's stretchability to kind of open some things up, because I'm even looking at this next deal, like they're just stockpiling front court players left and right.
Yeah, it's interesting with Hawks what they're doing, because they also got Scal BCA for $2 million cash. Basically what happened.
Cash, baby.
Cash. But the Kings, yeah, sorry, I wanted to touch on them.
For sure.
Jabari, athletic, another 4-5, and Len 5, like you said, just so many bigs. They gave away Dedmon and they got Len and Jabari. So it's interesting that they're just, getting more players. Both of these guys can play, but they're not like difference makers. I think Sacramento just didn't want Dedmon because Dedmon wanted to get traded, and it was just like a locker room thing. So might as well take a flyer on Jabari and, have Len play the center minutes for, after the trade deadline. So that was Sacramento's reasoning. Atlanta, fine. Like, Dedmon, bring him back. He can play. Backup Capella. Clearly Collins can't play center. So,
Right.
yeah. And then, Portland received $2 million cash for Scal BCA. I don't think I think Scal was just absorbed into an exception for Atlanta. So you can't just like do that. But the Atlanta in return gave $2 million cash, and Portland can buy second round picks with that.
And I suppose Portland maybe created a trade exception then for whatever Scal's contract is.
Yeah. So Portland created trade exception. Atlanta absorbed him into a trade exception. And more size, another flyer for Atlanta. Philadelphia, Orlando. Like we said, James Ennis to Orlando for 2020 Lakers second round pick. Philly had to move off players. They also waived Trey Burke. So they had to move off 2 players after acquiring Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson. I thought that Kylo Quinn or Jonah Bolden might be candidates to be waived. Bolden non-guaranteed next year, so he definitely could have been. Shake Milton, I feel like they would have kept on to. But those 4 players, Burke, O'Quinn, Bolden, and Ennis, were like, okay, they're going to waive them or go get second-round picks for them. They were able to get at least one, but it's a Lakers second, so it's not going to be good. So it's basically like, they just had to move on from him. Funny, he was in the Markelle Fultz trade a while back. So
was he, in fact? Because
exactly. The first round pick in James Ennis.
Hey, there you go. That's another one of the clicks. Philly and Orlando making another deal together. Just like, hey, could you help me out? Could you take a player for us? And it's like, oh, sure, we can even send you this, 57th overall pick.
Yeah,
right back.
Exactly. Those 57th picks are only for friends. Atlanta and before the deadline, we won't go too deep into these because I think we already talked about them. So Atlanta, Minnesota, Jeff Teague and Travion Graham for Alan Crabb happened a few weeks ago. How's Alan Crabb been, man?
I mean, honestly, not effective. We're losing all of our games, but I mean, he's gonna hopefully give us some shooting now that we actually have D'Angelo Russell that can get some guys the ball. Like that'll hopefully make a big difference. But I mean, it hasn't affected the win column. And frankly, wasn't watching any of those games until we finally won one or made this D'Angelo Russell trade. Now I'm definitely tuning in on the next game.
Yeah. Jeff Teague and Travion Graham haven't caught much of in Atlanta, so no comments there. Dallas got Willie Cauley-Stein for a Utah 2020 second from Golden State. We already mentioned that. Again, Golden State trying to cut cost. Portland, Kemp Bazemore, and Tolliver to Sacramento for Alan Crabb. Alan Crabb just... Wait, no, that's not right.
It would be...
for Trevor Ariza. Trevor Ariza.
Yes, I was like, what is his name?
That was the correction that my boy on Twitter made to the tweet. Like I said, several mistakes there. It'll be fully updated and correct for the newsletter. I just want to get it out there on Twitter. But we are at the end of this episode. Went through all the trades. I think we did put ourselves into the minds of every single front office to kind of understand.
We did our best.
Sometimes
we didn't know what we were thinking.
Sometimes we didn't know what we were thinking. Exactly. And we really appreciate you guys checking us out, listening to the Bench Mob NBA. A lot of fun stuff. Moving forward, I do a lot of game notes. I'm adding a lot of plugs just because I'm starting a lot of different things, so apologies for that. But I watch the games and then put highlights onto Twitter, but I don't put all of them. I mush them all together and then throw it onto YouTube for highlights with background analysis on it. So go check that out on my YouTube page. This episode is going to also be there if you want to see my face in the trades while you're listening to it. But podcasters generally don't do that. So thanks for checking us out anywhere you do. Peace out.